now we're going to be we're going to actually be watching two speakers speak about something really, really cool. I actually got a chance to see some of the collaborations that were formed with this incredible company that's about to speak. They do alternative leathers. So the title is Fashion is Alternative Leathers, and it's with Roland Salatino, the co-founder of Inversa Leather, alongside Oscar Lopez, the fashion department chair of Miami International University of Art and Design. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I have the pleasure of interviewing Roland this afternoon. Roland is the co-founder of Inversa Leathers. And Roland, during our call last week, I talked about how impressed and fascinated I am with the work that you do, you and your team, especially within the last 3 years. I have a lot of questions for you, and I'm sure that the audience at the end will have questions as well. Roland, do you mind sharing with everyone what is Inversa Leathers, what exactly you do, and how you ended up in fashion?
Yeah, it's not a traditional path, absolutely. In fact, it's honestly, I'm quite grateful to be able to be with so many incredible fashion minds here. I never thought that I would get the chance to even be in the room with many of you people, much less speaking. So yeah, what Inversa Leathers is we're a new type of fashion material. We take invasive species that are destroying ecosystems, and we turn them into luxury grade leather and sell that to brands. We're not the ones who make the shoes, the bags, the purses. We make the leather, and then we let you guys take your creative vision, because I know it's better than mine, and take that to life. And so what that means is that every time you make a pair of shoes with leather made from an invasive lionfish, that's 70,000 native reef fish that have been saved. Every time you make a bag with an invasive python, that python would have gone and eaten every mammal in our Florida Everglades smaller than a deer, including the deer. So the point of this was that we saw, my friends and I, the co-founders of this company, we are outdoorsmen, we're scuba divers, we're rock climbers, campers, we're nature nerds. And we had seen through our repeated scuba dives what the lionfish have been doing to these coral reefs. You dive it 1 year, it'd be beautiful, colorful, teeming with life, and you dive it 2 years later, and it would be dead. It would just be gray and just these lionfish floating around eating everything that they could fit into their mouths. And we said there's gotta be a way to do something about this. And we've known about what fashion has been facing in terms of this sustainability, and Fernando talked about it earlier. There's a long way that we have to go. But we looked at it and we said, this just makes sense. Instead of raising another cow that, you then turn into leather, why don't we take this machine and turn it toward these species that actually need to be kept in check? It just makes sense to us. And so that's where the idea for Inversa Leathers came from. We wanted to be able to say, hey, for the first time, you can point to a pair of shoes and say, the world's actually better because that pair of shoes exists.
That's incredible, Roland. One of the things that stood with me after the conversation that we had, it's your message. Basically, something that you mentioned is that you're healing the planet through leather goods. So that really stood for me. Now, at what point you realized that you can actually transform lionfish skin into leather?
Yeah. So, like I said, I'm a bit of a nerd. And for whatever reason, I, as far back as, the Boy Scout days, had been looking into everything I could possibly get my hands on, and I knew that you can actually make leather out of anything with skin. I won't go too deep into the science, don't worry about that. But knowing that, we came and we looked at the lionfish, and we said, look, there's gotta be a way. And so we had this idea that, yeah, we could take it, maybe we could make it into leather, maybe we can make it look gorgeous. And we set about doing that. We quit our day jobs. We, in the middle of the pandemic, which my family was not exactly thrilled about. We moved down to Florida and we began working. We began looking into this, researching, working and finding the most, the best leather researchers in the country. Started working with them, and before we knew it, we had some early prototypes, and we've just never looked back since then.
That's incredible. Well, and you went from an idea, you identify a gap, and now it's an actual business, a successful business. So can you share with us what were some of the critical steps that you took from that initial idea to the business that you have today?
Yeah, obviously you have to make sure that this makes sense, and I am at my core, a practical person, I'd like to believe. And while a dream is really great, we have to make it actually fit with the world. And so if we, made stuff out of lionfish that didn't look good, or that didn't actually help, or didn't actually do what we say it does, that would be a big problem. So we had to really make sure that it does what we say it does. There's no greenwashing. You can point to that lionfish and say, hey, that's no longer in the oceans. That's all there is. We had to make sure that we were using chemicals that are sustainable and that are good. Most importantly, we had to gather a team around us, and because the people are everything, like everyone's been saying. It's actually kind of funny. I don't know if you or Jordana know this, but it was actually at Fashinnovation last year. We met another team member, David, who, there you are. He came up and talked to us after the event, and now he's one of the core members of our team, which is just amazing. But the team really is kind of everything.
So last year, we had the opportunity to interview your business partner. And at that point, the focus was lionfish. What happened since then? Is there any other species that were added to that list?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been really exciting since then. So, like you said, we started with lionfish, which was a gorgeous, beautiful species. And who wouldn't want to wear an apex predator from 400 feet under the ocean? But since then, we've also expanded to those Burmese python, the ones in our Florida Everglades that are just, all our otters, raccoons, marmots, everything that's, like I said, a deer and smaller, they're destroying. We've also expanded into the dragonfin, which is this other species of freshwater fish. We don't know it too well down here because they're mostly invasive up through the Mississippi River, which covers just a vast swath of the U.S. But it's been replacing over 90% of biomass in that river. That is a terrifying number for biodiversity. And the big fight has been stopping it from getting into the Great Lakes. And they haven't gotten there yet, but we're working hard to make sure they don't, because if they do, they're going to wreak the same devastation they've caused so far.
I'm curious, Roland, what happened behind the scenes, the research process. How does that look like for you? Do you work directly with the government, with the state? Are there resources available for the type of business that you do, certification? How does that work?
Yeah, that's a great question. And absolutely, there's a lot of attention being paid to invasive species right now. Just recently in Montreal, people have been calling out and noticing that invasive species are one of the biggest causes of biodiversity loss, which is truly terrifying. And thanks to that attention that's being paid, there's a lot of people, whether it's through nonprofits who are doing fantastic work, or government agencies who are putting out subsidies and grants and a lot of opportunities and bringing general awareness as well. People are aware, and so we are working with government through acquiring grants. We obviously have to be regulated because, like I said, we want to do what we say we do. It does no one any good if we're out here claiming we're doing good and then moving rhino horns, And everyone needs to know that they can trust. And that's one of the big things we're really all about, is making sure that it's very obvious, very much on the face. You don't have to go dig into our chemical list, although you're welcome to. You can know that, hey, this is exactly what we say it is. It is an invasive species. And so getting the right certifications and going through all the right regulatory steps is a very important thing for us.
That's great. You mentioned at the beginning that sustainability is a huge part of your business. And I'm sure that some of the common questions that you get from possible clients, they want to make sure that it's full cycle sustainable practice. Can you walk us through the process of catching the lionfish to treating the leather, and then what happened with the leftovers? Who takes care of that?
Yeah, those are really great questions. And you're absolutely right. People ask them a lot. So for us, it is really important to us to make sure that every part of the animal is being used. While it's invasive, it's not its fault that it's there. Sadly, it's usually humans' fault. It's usually through pet trade or through us introducing it, and it didn't really have a say in the matter. And while that's tragic, we have to protect the 90% of species that would have been eliminated by it, but we will do it with respect. So yes, utilizing the entire thing. One of the big things that we do, like to talk with the lionfish, so the process is you go out on a boat, maybe 2 hours out there. You can't see the shoreline. You drop over 100 feet down to the depths of the ocean with a scuba tank and a pole spear in hand, and you're out there with the apex predators. Now, we always want to make sure everything's being done humanely, and we enforce that with all the fishermen, the hunters, everybody who does this. We always follow, as much as we can, the PETA regulations, the PETA suggestions, government regulations. That's always very, very important to us. At that point, then when it comes back, we do, like we said, we make sure we use all of it. So we've gotten to the point where we are working with the local fishermen, for instance, with the lionfish, and they want to actually use the rest of the fish. They've got markets that they can sell the fillets into. They make jewelry out of the spines down in the Caribbean. They turn everything else into crab bait and stuff like that, which is fantastic. And so we don't take that whole fish from them and then take the skin and throw the rest of it out. We say, okay, we will just take the skins, and you keep doing whatever it is that you're already using the rest of it for. Same thing with the Burmese python. People are using it for the meat. They're selling the eggs. They're turning the bones into various things. Same thing with the dragon fin as well. And so we really do make sure we verify all of our suppliers are following the codes of conduct. Like we said, we're nature nerds. This is important to us. We're not just going to do it lip service.
Roland, you founded the business, you and your business partner, 3 years ago, no?
Yeah.
So it's just incredible everything that you have been able to accomplish. What are some of the brands, if you can mention some of them, that you currently work with? And then can you also share with us some of the obstacles that probably you faced when you were selling this idea to possible clients?
Sure, yeah. There are brands that I can't mention yet, which very excited for when that comes along. We are working with some really great brands like Piper and Sky and Oleata, and we're also working with some people like William Kleinberg. So there's a lot of really great companies out there. And what we really look for is people who are also aligned with the mission, who care. There's a lot of those brands and people out there who really care very fiercely for this earth, and that's what we look for. In terms of, you asked about barriers and things in the way. Like I told you guys, I didn't come into this from the fashion side. I didn't really know how people were going to react. I was worried that people would hear the story which wouldn't make sense, or they'd be like, oh, that's gross, a fish. But I've been so happily shocked to see that a lot of people, as soon as they see, hey, it doesn't smell like a fish, it does smell like real leather, and it smells very nice, they get it. It's a story about a material that improves the planet, and it makes sense.
Okay. So what is the future of Inversa leathers? I know that you currently work with fashion clients, specifically in accessories. They produce handbags, wallets, shoes. Are you planning to expand in what you consider clients outside of fashion?
Yeah, great question. We absolutely would. There's nothing that's saying, hey, we are only going to work with, people who make handbags. If you can make something and help the planet with it, we're absolutely very excited to work with you. In terms of the future of Inversa, we are very, very happy being a materials supplier. You guys are the ones who have the genius in how to make a product look good or shoes look really good. That's not me, and I know that, and I'm okay with that. So I'm very happy to take the science to where I can and then let you guys do the amazing work that y'all do. We are very, very excited at this point because we've proven out now. We've gotten the lionfish leather looking awesome. We've gotten the python looking really beautiful. And we've gotten the dragon fin, kind of the last one to come up to speed to a point where it looks gorgeous too. And boy, am I excited about that. We're now at the point where we need to really increase our volumes. And we're raising a round of investing to try to do that. But we're going to be here as a material supplier with these 3 species for quite a while. Will we expand to other species? Probably. Probably not in the next year, maybe 2. But it's like Fernando said, anyone who says they've got the 5-year plan, well, at least that's not me. I know there's so many ways this could go, and we got to go with where the world takes us.
So before we open it for questions, I just want to ask you one last question. Here in Miami, we have a lot of local accessory designers, especially, hopefully, in the audience, we'll have a few. And some of them are looking for alternative options when it comes to sustainable practices. So how can they get in contact with you and your team, and how does that process looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can come talk to me. You can find David afterwards. You can find us on Instagram, reach out through our website. We monitor all that stuff very frequently. We're excited to work with anybody who's interested in this. You know, like we said, we're just trying to help make sure that we can make a difference. That's the dream. And so talk to us. We're very excited to talk to anyone here.
Thank you, Roland. We're going to open it up for questions.
Any questions from the audience? All right, we have 3. Perfect.
Hi, thank you for that. I remember you guys from last year. My question concerns the Fish and Wildlife Service. Do you guys work intimately with them? And also, do you think that fashion would be better off if more large brands had more of a relationship with these kind of natural governing bodies?
Sure, great question. Yeah, we do work with Florida Fish and Wildlife. We work with NOAA, with Aura. In fact, we've gotten some grant money from both of the latter two, and we work very intimately with Florida Fish and Wildlife. Everything from their python regulatory roundups and stuff like that, to the lionfish challenges that they hold, and the various tournaments and derbies. It's important that we do work with these guys because they've established so much of the groundwork. In terms of your second question of do we think it would be great for fashion brands to work with the governmental bodies who are regulating nature? I mean, yeah, absolutely, would love for that, but that's also where we can come in and help to bridge that gap. We're going to go do the homework and make sure that everything that we do and put out there actually is what we say it is, and so you can take it and trust that we're, like I said, there's no greenwashing. You don't have to look and say like, oh, well, let me get into your actual chemical list. You can say, hey, that's a lionfish that's not in the water. That's a python that's not in the Everglades. Yeah, absolutely. It'd be wonderful if everyone can do all things at all times. That's really hard, though. I know I can't do it, but we're at least able to help kind of fill the gap a little bit, I guess.
We could take.
Hello, I'm Natalie Jawour from my lifestyle magazine and fashion editor. And I was a little bit more concerned about this in a way of sustainability. Do you could farm the fishes instead to go in the ocean and cut them?
Great question. I'm really glad you asked that. That's a big one. Yeah, so there's obviously a concern around what economists, which was my minor, call moral hazard, right? Could someone actually set up a farm and then have these things break out? And it does vary species by species. So with the lionfish, no. They have not actually been able to, some people have tried, I don't know why, but some people have tried to create farms for the lionfish. Something that a biologist smarter than I am will have to explain to you about their pelagic larval state. Basically just doesn't work in captivity, which is great for us because we don't want anyone, whether it's a competitor or somebody else, to come in and try to start farming them. We would never do that. With python, there are python farms out in Asia where they are from. That is a possibility, and so that's one of the big reasons why we have to make sure that we are working with the governmental bodies that verify, hey, you caught this in the wild from this spot with this hunter on this date. It's very important that clarity is there so that nobody can come in and try to develop a competitor brand that does it in a bit shadier of a way. So absolutely, you have to look species by species to see the biology of whether that would work out or not, but by partnering up with governments to make sure that the clarity is there, that's how we make sure that everyone has full transparency and that everything is above board.
All right, we have room for one more. And I'm sure Roland will stick around, right? If people want to speak.
Absolutely.
Hi, thank you so much for being here. Sorry, these chairs are so close together. My name is Alexis Wright. I calculate greenhouse gas emissions for large apparel brands from materials and factories. And so I was really excited for this talk. But my main question for you is, have you all completed any type of LCA research, or are you part of the leather working group? Because a lot of things that brands don't know is that in order for them to source environmentally preferred materials or alternative materials, they have to see the hard numbers and the data. And so I was just wondering, have you all invested in any type of LCA research to figure out the kilograms of CO2e for your product?
Yeah, fantastic question. So where we are is we've actually just submitted our positive luxury application. Unfortunately, with Leather Working Group, you have to own your own tannery for them to actually evaluate it. We do not own our own tannery. We work hand in hand very closely with a partner tannery over in Europe. So we tried to, and they said unless you have your own tanning drums, there's nothing for them to go do. But the partners we're working with are actually going and getting Leather Working Group certified. So to be completely frank, right now, the answer is there's nothing yet on the ledger, but that's what we've all got in process because it is very important to us. We are almost 3 years old as a company, and we want to make sure that everyone knows that we do what we say we do.
Thank you so much. This was an amazing conversation. Super inspiring. Thank you. Thank you, Oscar.